Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is the 12th of March. We are in, of course, a whole new world of COVID-19, so I hope you are all safe and well at home. And we can have a great session today without any worry whatsoever of contracting or spreading COVID-19 while we all react and enjoy thinking about the ancient world. Whereas one of your questions has come in this week asking about ancient diseases and ancient plagues, there were just such similar spreads of great kind of global plagues, and we'll be answering that question and having a look at that a little bit later on. So I hope you've been having a great time. It's been a busy couple of weeks as the university is finishing up its term at the end of this week for me at Warwick, and obviously we've been reacting to COVID-19 a little bit at the university as well. We've had our series of open days. If you've come on an offer holder open day to the University of Warwick, it's been a great pleasure to see you. If you haven't had a chance to catch up with us yet, but you have an offer from us to study with us come this October, then please do get in touch. Come and visit us at some other point as well, and we very much hope to see you there. Anyway, we have got some great questions that have come in. Hello, Sarah. Yes, that's to you all. Hello, welcome. I don't know if you can do high fives here, emoji high fives, emoji thumbs up. I don't know if they've invented the emoji yet for the brilliant new foot bump, which I think you may have seen YouTube clips of in China as the new way to say hello to people. It's not a elbow bump or a fist bump, it's a foot bump, which does mean though you have to be quite good at balancing on one foot to then be able to bash your other foot against the other person's foot. And I've seen some good videos in which people are falling over doing it, but I'm sure an emoji along those lines is soon to follow. Hello Angela, hello Rosie, thank you so much indeed for tuning in. It's great to see you all here. And we're going to jump off with a question from Lecky Brown. Lecky is reading the Iliad and the Odyssey. Great stuff. Both the ancient version and modern retellings. Excellent. She's absolutely fascinated by this, but she is a single working mum, doesn't have time, she doesn't think, to be able to do a college or an open university level or something like that, open university degree, but would love to know more and was thinking about whether GCSE would have some options, thinking about the Iliad and the Odyssey. Absolutely. Ian, you've had the calendar. Good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for your great question. You won the prize last month for the best question. Don't forget, every month we offer a prize for the best question that has been asked and answered through one of our Facebook live Q&A sessions. So very glad in that you got that calendar through indeed. Hello Matt, hello Alexis, hello Anna, thank you so much Anna Karen. Hello Fiona, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to the live Q&A. Yeah, so Lecky's been asking about Iliad and the Odyssey. Are they on the GCSE syllabus? Yes, and definitely, and particularly in the GCSE classical civilization syllabus. You're talking about the world of the hero, and you're talking about lots of things to do with the worlds of the Iliad and the Odyssey and thinking about those. So you could look into the GCSE as a topic, and equally thinking about the different resources that are available to you to do that. I suggest that you check out warwick.ac.uk/WCN. That's our Warwick Classics Network website, because we've just posted a whole series of online resources that have been created with the help of lots of people across the country, that are a central set of resources to help everyone studying at GCSE and A-level. So do have a check-in with that, Lecky. Please everyone as well. Hello from Mexico City, Fan Dabby Dorsey. We can have an international get-together here online at the Q&A without any COVID-19 worries whatsoever. Hello, Salve, from you're coming under house quarantine in Fiesole in Italy. Yes, any of you in Italy who are now under house quarantine and the I stay at home decree is in place, please let us know how you're doing. If you'd like to share some photos on the Facebook page as well of kind of what life is like both in Italy and in other countries around the world, please do share your photos as well. Good afternoon, Patricia. How are you doing? I hope everyone who is staying at home and self-isolating is well. I hope you have some good supplies. I hope you have a good supply of DVDs and movies to watch, and equally, of course, join in with the live Q&A. So Lecky, if any of you have suggestions for Lecky about good resources to read more and understand more about the Iliad and the Odyssey, then please do share them now, or indeed share them afterwards, and we'll put them up on the Facebook page for Lecky. So that's brilliant. Kind of so good that you've... Oh, it's you! It's Alexis! Right, okay. Sorry, I didn't understand. Your name came in as Lecky Brown rather than Alexis Brown. There we go. Right, Alexis, there we go. Alexis is online now listening, so if you have suggestions for good resources to study the Iliad and the Odyssey, then please do shout out now for Alexis, and she will be, I'm sure, very, very glad to get your suggestions. Right, we move on to J. Matthew River. There we go. Kind of also coming to us and live with us from his house quarantine in Fiesole in Italy. He's asking about the historical evidence of advanced medicine in the ancient world. You've heard that there was a contraceptive herb used by the Romans to prevent unwanted pregnancy that was used to the plant's extinction. Interesting story, interesting. So yes, I mean, ancient medicine was, my colleague at Warwick County teaches one of the most fantastic courses about this, about ancient medicine, was incredibly advanced in some ways. So we know that we have certain surviving texts, kind of medical texts, that are being written really mainly from the 4th century BC onwards, as doctors and medicine kind of become things in their own right, and people are trying to conceive of human and bodily anatomical causes for things, and as a result medical solutions for things. So there's a very famous idea of the sort of what was known as the sacred disease in ancient Greece in the 4th century, and what we think is basically epilepsy, what we now call epilepsy. Kind of its name connotes that it was something from the gods, right? It was something given to you by the gods, nothing you could do about it. But actually in the 4th century they start to go, no, this is a human condition with a human anatomical bodily causes, and thus probably has some things that can be done about it by ourselves. Right? And so Hippocrates as well, the great 4th century, the Hippocratic Oath that doctors still swear today, that's coming through from there, and a whole series of treatises that Hippocrates wrote on things like sight, anatomy as well. And then you have Herophilus writing from Alexandria in Egypt as well, as a great kind of ancient medical writer. Then Galen as well, kind of absolutely incredibly important writer with a whole series of treatises that have survived, things like respiration, arteries, food and diet, the importance of food and diet and how that contributes to overall health, a treatise on prognosis as well. And behind all of this is a series of shifting understandings of how the body worked, and particularly a series of understandings based around keeping the balance of particular fluids, or of hot and cold kind of within the balance, and that bodies kind of went out of whack and got ill when that balance was lost. And plastic surgery started then as well. Kind of interesting. So we certainly have the sense of surgery, and sometimes pretty major surgery. So there's examples of brain surgery being performed in the ancient Greek and Roman worlds, and clearly those people have survived that brain surgery because the hole that's been drilled into their brain, we find the skulls, we see there's a hole being drilled into their brain, but it's actually also grown back and covered over slightly, so that clearly the skull has had time to regrow the bone, which means absolutely kind of people were surviving from this. Impressive, Joe Matthew Rivers talking about impressive dentistry in ancient Egypt, using moulded bread. Yes, you mentioned this in your question, using mouldy bread with, of course, the penicillin fungus that grows on mouldy bread, putting that into wounds. So they're not necessarily understanding all of the science behind it, but they are understanding what works and the particular cures that works. So I find this an incredibly interesting area, thinking about not only how ancients conceived of how the body functioned, but how they discovered the sorts of cures that could be used and that worked, and how that increasing body of what we would now call scientific knowledge worked alongside the idea that also the gods could cure you. So in the ancient Greek world, you have the fabulous sanctuaries of Asclepius, the god of healing, and of course people were also going to these sanctuaries, and they were being seen by the priests within these sanctuaries, and they were potentially receiving some kind of what we would call scientific medical attention within these sanctuaries, but they were also sleeping overnight in these sanctuaries, waiting for and hoping for the god to either heal them or come to them in a dream and suggest a cure for them to be healed. And we know at the sanctuary of Asclepius in Epidemics, for instance, that during the 4th century, they put up these massive stelae, these grand stones at the entrance to the sanctuary with a whole series of success stories. People who had come to the sanctuary and who had been with this problem or that problem and who had been cured as a result. And it's noticeable that some of those stories talk about people who initially came very skeptical. They came and scoffed at the idea that a god could heal them, but then through magic and mystery of the divine, they had their eyes opened and were healed by the god, and then had to often pay some kind of penance as a result. They had to go and offer a statue to the god or something like that. So yeah, this is an absolutely fascinating area where it really does show often a huge amount of insight and understanding, not necessarily the same kind of scientific understanding we have today, but equally there is a continuum. Some of the surgical tools that they invented and were using in ancient Greece, for instance, when you talk to doctors today and surgeons today, they recognize those tools. Those tools have not changed that much. They might have got a little bit finer, they may have now been made of a different kind of metal, and they're certainly now more sterilized than they were in antiquity, but actually the tools themselves have often not changed. And indeed some of the techniques that are used. So for instance, cupping to promote the body and provoke the body into a higher white blood cell count and thus be in a better position to fight infection. That was something that was done in ancient Greece and which continues to be done all the way through to today. So there we go, we get a great continuation. Thank you, great question. Sarah, Scotty has also been in touch. Okay, we move on smoothly from the topic of medical understanding to pets. I'm going to drink some water before we start. And Karina's been asking about the snakes. Oh yeah. The medical symbol of the snake around the staff. Sleepers, there we go. But Sarah is asking about pets. In our modern age, pets are psychologically part of our families. What relationships did the Greeks and Romans have with their pets? And of course, I suspect this has been prompted by the fact that it was Crufts, the final of Crufts last weekend. And of course, I felt rather sorry for the winner of Crufts, the charming little dachshund who then sort of promptly is going to be remembered forevermore for doing a large poo on the arena, which was then broadcast by the news by the news outlets, which I thought was a bit harsh. Given the poor thing, that's all that's going to be remembered of the little one. Angela, how important do you think it is to learn where the accents go when learning ancient Greek? Aha, okay. Well, it depends at what level you are studying, what you are wanting to study the ancient world for. If you want to take your study of the ancient world into graduate work, so master's and PhD level and beyond into academic work, then obviously at that stage, an understanding of the ancient language is extremely important. And I always say to students that if they are thinking about potentially taking their work on into graduate work and further, then they do need to make sure that they're equipping themselves with the languages. Now, in terms of the accents that particularly go on ancient Greek, the stress is those accents are, whenever you learn ancient Greek, it's one of the last things that you start to worry about, except for the breathing, obviously, kind of at the beginnings of words with particular vowels, with the silent H or not, kind of the rough or the smooth breathing. But those accents are important, particularly if you're wanting to move into very fine grain literary work, potentially kind of working on particular works of ancient literature, or indeed to kind of thinking about surviving manuscripts and texts as well. So Angela's doing a master's now. I think, Alexis, his what? Anna, what's been going on? I've missed this on the display. Alexis says, his what? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Anna, question mark, question mark, question mark. You need to explain, Alexis, what is going on? I've missed this entirely. Angela, you're doing a master's now. So yeah, I would say depending on what you're working on for the master's, it may not be intensely kind of important to understand the accents, but depending on the particular material you're working on, depending on what you want to do going forward. But they are obviously an integral part of the language that if you want that very fine grained knowledge and understanding of ancient Greek, then you do need to start thinking about them. Sarah and pets. Aha! Is this asking about pets? So, was there an Egyptian version of Crufts, for instance? Great question from Sarah. Of course, in Egypt, obviously, you have the relationship with certain animals and they're considered divinity. So you've got the kind of the divine nature of cats, for instance, in ancient Egypt, just like the divine cow in India. And in the ancient Greek world, you see a particular relationship in that the Greeks consider certain animals and the decisions made by those animals, so whether they turn left or right, whether they fly straight ahead, up, down, turn around, etc., crow at certain points of the day, to be directly linked to the will of the gods. So in the ancient Greek world, you would have people paying a lot of attention to specific animals, and sometimes it was animals related to particular gods, so Zeus and his eagle, for instance, Athena and her owl. For what those animals did would be able to tell you something about the will of the gods. It was a form of divination. You asked a question, you had a question in your mind, you could get a divine answer by looking at the flight of birds, looking at how certain animals behaved, etc. But the ancient Greeks did not trust fish. And this is very, very important indeed. So it was one of the big dividing lines, in fact, between the ancient Greek world and that of Asia Minor, the sort of communities of now of modern-day Turkey, in that over there in Asia Minor, a fish was considered to be an intelligent animal that you could actually do some form of divination with and follow its pathway. But in the ancient Greek world, a fish was an animal devoid of any possible intellect, and thus couldn't possibly be of any interest to or be engaged with the gods in any way whatsoever. And no one in their right mind would try and do divination by looking at fish. So avoid fish at all costs would be my recommendation. So you have the idea of divination and the respect for animals. Indeed, of course, there would be lots of animals hanging around the house, kind of in the ancient Greek world. Some of those would be working animals, and thus, but would they be considered as pets as we do today? Probably not. Most of them would be working animals if they're going to be around the house. And then, of course, there would have been the rearing of animals to eat. Don't forget that kind of if you're doing a big public sacrifice, you need kind of 100 cows or 100 oxen at the Olympic Games that were sacrificed. So there's a lot of rearing of animals to provide meat as well for large scale events. Certain animals accompany certain gods. So Corinne's asking about dolphins. So often you see sort of dolphins associated with kind of the famous Ezekias vase where Dionysus is on his boat with dolphins leaping around him, for instance. And obviously the other kind of really important relationship for many ancient cultures was between the rider and their horse. So this would be a really important relationship where there would be, no doubt, a certain amount of kind of emotion that went with that relationship. And also a lot of thought was put into how to be a good master and rider of the horse. One of my PhD students, for instance, at the moment, is working on their PhD on a particular treatise of Xenophon, the 4th century writer, who writes about everything from ancient history itself, so the continuation of affairs of the Greek world after 411 BC down to 362, but also writes the biographies of particular important characters from that period, also writes a whole series of treatises on early economics, sort of the self-sufficiency of the household, but also writes about horsemanship. And she's particularly working on his treatise on horsemanship, about how a rider best controls and works with their horse. So Rajrupa, how was your trip to Uzbekistan and other places? Thank you so much for posting some of the photos. They've been absolutely brilliant to see, but do give us a report about what you thought was the best places in your visit, kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. So the Greeks not trusting fish, it is a really quite a big contrast from Far East and Southern Asian cultures. Yeah, absolutely. Who knew that the fish, what people thought of the fish, was such a big dividing line between the two. So absolutely, so think about, go and read Xenophon's treatise on horsemanship if you fancy knowing a little bit more about the very complicated ways which very deep understanding of how horses work. But actually that treatise on horsemanship remained one of the main treatises that people came and kept referring to in terms of learning about the art of horsemanship through the Renaissance period and through into the 18th and 19th centuries. So brilliant, thank you for that, Sarah. And you asked a cheeky follow-up question, which was, what mythical creature would you most like to be? Sarah would pick a unicorn. What would I like to be? I think I'd like to be a centaur. Yeah, I quite like to be a centaur. So tell us, what kind of mythical creature would you like to be? I think quite a few people might go for satyrs so that they can run around doing all sorts of stupid things and drink all the time. But for me, it would be a centaur, and that would be quite good fun, I think. Although, obviously, centaurs exist, as do satyrs, on the boundary of civilized and uncivilized behavior in the ancient Greek and Roman world. And we know centaurs who do run amok at certain important weddings. They're kind of one of the crucial stories that were told about the centaurs and Lapis, the enmity between centaurs and humans was caused because of centaurs going mad at a particular wedding. Thank you from Melbourne. It's 3 a.m. in Melbourne and you're coming online. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. It's absolutely great. I am hoping, COVID-19 allowing, to be out in Australia for the whole of May, as I'm going to be doing some work with Monash University in Melbourne, and I'll be in Sydney a little bit as well. So we will be doing, no doubt, if I'm out there, we will be doing a Facebook Live when I am in Australia, and we'll have to work out what time we do it, so that if we try and keep to the 4 p.m. UK time, that means I'll be doing it at 3 a.m. in the morning in Melbourne, or perhaps we'll try and find some time that will work, i.e. At the moment I think it's either late night here is early morning there, isn't it, or early morning here is late night there, so we might have to do a special one-off Q&A from Australia in May as well. You, Medusa, hey, hello Marietta, thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, we need to, wow, time is moving on fast. But Rebecca Louise, I promise we get to your question. Rebecca Louise, in the light of coronavirus, what evidence is there for ancient epidemics and how did the community respond to them? Really, really good question. And yes, we have tons of evidence of plagues moving either through individual communities or indeed across vast global swathes and expanses. Eleni, Monash is closed at the moment. Yikes, okay, I better get in touch with them to see whether I am coming in May time. All fingers and toes crossed that COVID-19 allows me to travel to you guys in May. It'd be great to see you there. So Rebecca Louise, you're asking about ancient epidemics and how did the community respond to them? Okay, well, things like very famously the plague that beset Athens at the first decade of the Peloponnesian War in the middle of the 5th century. So it was the plague that consumed perhaps and killed off estimates of half of the adult male population, at least male adult citizen population, of course, also affecting the wider population of the city as well. And it claimed also the lives of Pericles, the great leader of Athens at the time, and Pericles' sons as well. So that was an extraordinary kind of plague that came about from the fact that Athens' policy in the Peloponnesian War was to withdraw from the countryside, withdraw into the city, defend and protect itself behind its walls, but that meant an awful lot of people were suddenly in a very contained space, which made it was the perfect conditions for plague to spread. And we have in Thucydides very graphic descriptions of how the plague manifested itself and what it did to people indeed. So we have examples like that which affecting one particular place. But then when you get into the Roman world and the Roman Empire in the 2nd century AD, we have what's known as the Antonine Plague. Now this was a plague that was specifically understood to have come from the east and particularly probably being brought back by soldiers, Roman soldiers. Now by the 2nd century AD, of course, the Roman Empire was fully engaged in trading with and also military interaction and action with communities to the east, and indeed fully part of the emerging Silk Road network. So from the 1st century AD onwards, Roman ships were travelling across the Indian Ocean to the ports of west coast of India, trading, as well, there were goods coming all the way from China, but there were movements of all these traders across that vast network. And we do have some evidence to show that actually this plague that becomes known as the Antonine Plague in the Roman Empire in the 2nd century AD was also simultaneously affecting different communities across that vast expanse of the Silk Road network from China through to the Mediterranean. And so we have a kind of a sense of not just a global, what we might call in the ancient world, pandemic, but interestingly also we sort of see how much of effect that could have on a much, much bigger community like the Roman Empire. The plague, the Antonine Plague, is one of the reasons that is often cited for the sort of what's known as the downturn of the Roman Empire as it gets towards the end of the 2nd century and into the 3rd century AD. And we know that it's impacting that trading network. Trading does stop for a short period of time. So particularly in the honorific decrees that are given to people who help trade happen at the community of Palmyra Palmyra in modern-day Syria, but which was very much on the borders of the Roman and Parthian empires, we have surviving honorific decrees given to people for encouraging, supporting, financially aiding trade to happen across that borderland. And those stop for the period of the Antonine Plague and for a decade or so afterwards, and then kind of start to come back online from, say, the 190s, for instance. So it is obvious to see that there was an impact. And then, of course, another great pandemic plague of Justinian plague in the 6th century AD that went on for decades, really, in its impact on the Roman Empire as well. Raju, but Uzbekistan was amazing. Okay, I'm so glad you had a fantastic time. That's absolutely brilliant. We must get a report of this up on the Facebook page and of your visit and put it all together in one place. Absolutely fantastic. So Rebecca, thank you very much for your question. How did they respond to these? Well, of course, they don't quite necessarily understand how plague is moving and being transmitted, but they also do respond with some of pretty much the same measures that we have today, right? We've gone from containment and we're now moving into a delay phase in the UK, which means withdrawing from social contact, kind of stopping people from coming together in large groups in certain places. Kind of how little changes, despite the fact that we're so much more advanced in many ways. Actually, some of the old methods are the best. Now, we're almost out of time, so I must flag some of the stuff that's in the news. So some of you are getting very excited about, have we found Nefertiti's tomb? Radar clues ignite debate over hidden chambers. This is a radar survey around the tomb of Tutankhamun has revealed possible evidence of further hidden chambers behind the wall. That came from Nature, very exciting. Ancient Patara lighthouse to shine on Antalya shores. So the Patara lighthouse, constructed on the orders of Nero. The Emperor Nero is said to be restored and shine on the shores of Kastan in southern Antalya. So that would be fantastic if that happens. Really great to see that back in the fall. And of course, we're going to start digging up here in Britain the Roman amphitheatre in Kent. Yes. Guardian's reporting that we are going to sort of start working on the amphitheatre at Richborough in Kent, which is part of Roman Britain's longest occupied site. So let's get that in and get that out. Indeed, thank you very much indeed. And what's on? So there's a couple of things to announce for you today that you may have been picking up if you follow the Facebook page or my Twitter account. So at ProfMCScott for Twitter and same for Instagram, at ProfMCScott, and then of course the Facebook page as well. All being well with COVID-19, I'll be doing a lecture on the 23rd of March at King Edward's School in Bath, and that is a lecture is free to attend and open to the public, suitable for pupils from year 9 and above. So it's going to take place in the Wroughton Theatre. Tickets from the King Edward School box office. To book your tickets, please email boxoffice@kesbath.com. And so please, if you get a chance, it'd be lovely to see you there if we're all still meeting up by the 23rd of March. Then on the 30th of April, you may have seen this just announced, we're doing, as part of this great new fun podcast with Greg Jenner, You're Dead to Me. So I did the Spartans in season 1, which was the kind of one of the first episodes they recorded. We've just done the Olympics, the ancient Olympics, for season 2. Both of those podcasts are available to listen to on BBC Sounds and elsewhere. And we are now, Greg, I and a comedian are going to be doing a You're Live to Me, well, a You're Dead to Me, but a live show. And it's going to focus on Alexander the Great. Yes, we're going to be pulling out all the puns and all the stops about Alexander the Great to have a good giggle, but also to discuss the serious nature of his impact around the world. And now that's going to be taking place at the Union Chapel in Islington on the 30th of April. Tickets went on sale yesterday, so do get in touch and think about getting your tickets for that, and fingers crossed that can go ahead. And alongside the recording of the podcast, there will also be some extras as well, special that you get for being there live. That might include a little extra lecture from me. We'll see. Thinking of stuff happening at Warwick, further afield, our Warwick Classics Network. On the 1st of July, we've got a Teacher's Day. So if you're teaching classical civilization, ancient history at GCSE or A-level or any of the languages as well, do come along and join us. We'll be going into depth on the different modules that you teach to help kind of talk about the scholarship around those issues. That's specifically for teachers on Wednesday, the 1st of July. Have a look at warwick.ac.uk/WCN for that. And And I'm also going to be doing in September, by which time hopefully we're all free of COVID-19, on the 24th of September, a panel discussion reflecting on the Olympics, ancient and modern, at the Royal Geographical Society, and that's in association with the charity Classics for All that I'm a trustee of. Other things going on with other classes. Mary Beard is on Conversation on the 22nd of April at the John Lyons Theatre as part, in conjunction with the City Lit group. That would be fantastic to get along to see that if you can. And if you're in Frankfurt or anywhere near Germany, then get along to the Gods in Colour Golden Edition Polychromy and Antiquity exhibition that looks great fun as well. Now, my lordy, we are almost out of time. We've got a minute or two spare. I'm going to leave you with this question, and you can all have a think about it as well, and send in your answers over the Facebook page. This comes from Latifa Walker, and asking, if you were to be trapped in a virtual reality world, which time period and culture would you like to be trapped in, and why? Okay, so if I was to be trapped in a virtual reality world, which time period and culture would I like to be trapped in? So I expect, so to the extent I would like to experience any world permanently through the virtual reality, I'm imagining that would be great if I could experience the visual nature of the world and walk around. Isabel, hello, aloha, well done for making it. And the Titian exhibition, absolutely, really important as well. If you're near the Ashmolean in Oxford, come and see the Young Rembrandt exhibition that I saw at the opening a week or so ago. Absolutely fantastic indeed, really worth seeing as well, from a different period, of course. And you can see all the great collections of ancient Greek vases while you're there at the Ashmolean, including one of my favourite drinking cups, the Kylix, which instead of a normal foot that you would hold the Kylix, your drinking cup, it plays a trick on you by, instead of having a foot, it has a penis and testicles. So to be able to drink from this cup, you have to sort of grab it by the balls, quite literally, and then as you drink from it, you're pointing your Kylix tackle at the other people in the ancient Greek symposium with you. How charming. Where would you be in a virtual reality world? I'd like to be somewhere where I could experience the landscape and the world without having to deal with the wind, the cold, the vastness of the expanse, having to travel over. So I would actually love to be in the steppe regions. I'd like to be placed in one of the nomadic communities of the steppe, kind of particularly perhaps with the Xiongnu, it's kind of the great rivals of Han and China, the great nomads that were fantastically wealthy. When you see some of their graves that we've dug up, they are dripping in silk in every way, shape and form. And also the great exporters and movers of goods, one of the prime movers of the early Silk Roads, the Xiongnu nomadic community. So I would love to be able to experience that world. Don't necessarily want to have to live in the freezing cold area of the steppe that they did, or endure any of the hardships that they did, but I'd love to experience that in virtual reality. So tell us what you would like. Where would you like to be trapped in a virtual reality world, and why? Okay, fantastic. Everyone, thank you so much. We are out of time. It's absolutely wonderful that you've joined us. I hope that you feel that this has been a COVID-19 safe and free experience for you all. Stay safe over the next couple of weeks. Be kind to one another. Be helpful to one another as much as we possibly can be, as we all kind of gang together to get through the next couple of weeks. Stay safe. As Anna says, wash your hands. Well done, Anna. Absolutely, indeed. Everyone wash their hands. Don't breathe in public. Well, breathe. Please do breathe. Just don't openly cough or sneeze over everyone. And practice your elbow bumps, your foot bumps, and kind of namaste as well. Maybe we should start with namaste. Thank you, everyone, indeed. Next time, when will we be back? 26th of March. We'll do another COVID-safe and free Facebook Live Q&A on Thursday, the 26th of March at 4 p.m. UK time. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend. Stay safe, stay well, look after yourselves and one another. Take care. Bye.